Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're learning Masechtas Yevamot daf Kuf Ches. We are going to begin on Kuf Zayin Amud Beis by the Mishnah. So, Ezui Katana Shesrich Lemoyin. What type of katana are we referring to that miyun is necessary for her to walk out of this relationship? So the Mishnah says, Kol shesi'u ha'ima v'yacheha l'daita. In the event where the mother or the brother, because there's no father in this picture, to have married her off, but they married her off and it was with her consent. And therefore the Mishnah says, Hisi'uha shlo l'daita. If let's say she was married without her consent, in a srich limoin, then she doesn't even have to do miyan at all. Rabbi Chanina ben Antigona Saimer Kol Tinai Kashenu Yachai Lishmar Kiddushaha in a srich limoin. It's contingent on if she's able to guard her kedushin. That at least she's old enough to be able to have that level of knowledge. Rabbi Lezer Omer Ein Masa Katana Klum. The truth is, the actions of a katana are nothing, and Ella Kimafuta. Rather, she has the din just like when a woman is seduced. Therefore, because of this, even though she's with a kohen, she's still not to eat truma. On the other hand, if she's a bas kohen where she was eating truma her whole life, and now she's with this guy, so still doesn't matter because it's not really a marriage, and therefore she could still eat truma. Anytime the ikuv is because of the man, then she's like a wife. But so there's going to be two explanations, as we'll see soon. What exactly does this mean? So let's see the Gemara. Initially, get miyun. They would write on the get lo ri'ana be v'lo tzavena be v'leisa nabaya lihis natzba b'le, that they would make these specific statements that I do not want him, I do not have a desire to be with him, I don't want to be married to him. Once we saw that there was too many words, Amri, they said, as we continue to Koches Amid Aleph, Osi Lachlufi Begita. It's possible that it may end up being mistaken for a get. And Rashi says, Shyichtavenu Sefer Bor, Beget Gerishin Ligarish Boisha. And it's therefore, because with all these words, it looks almost like a get, Tekinu Hachi. Beyoim Ploini Miyaini Ploinis Bas Ploini Banpana. So this is what we got up to in the last daf, so let's continue. Tanabana. So Ezu Miyun. What exactly is miyun? So Amra I Ashi Beploini Baile, I do not want this guy. I Ashi Bekadushin, Shikidshuni. I don't want the Kedushin that he was given by Imi V'achai, by my mother and my brother. He also came to Rabbi Yehuda Filu Yosheves Pirion, even if let's say she's sitting little in a carriage, by Lechas Mebesavia, going from her father's house, Leves Baila, Yamri Ashla Ploini Baili Zumiyun. That actually in itself constitutes as miyun. Rashi says the ikal meimar, because you could say ilo boyle, if she didn't want him, techus v'tezel afil hachi have miyun, then maybe she should just get off and go. Nonetheless, it's still considered to be a miyun. Yaso akenim Rabbi Yehuda afilu haya orchim mitzubim beis baila. Even if you have guests, as Rashi says, the lake of Basin, there's no courts, and it's in the beis baila. Dio imedis umashka lehem, and she's sitting and drinking with them. Yermelhem I ashi b'ploini baili harihu miyun. So it doesn't need a Basin, according to this. Yasser came. Amar Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda filu shigra baila etzel chenveni. Even if, let's say, the husband sends her by a storekeeper, well, havi boy chayfetz, to buy some food, whatever it may be, and she just says to the storekeeper, so there's no greater miyun than this. The fact that she's basically just walking around and making this decoration, that's considered to be miyun. Rabbi Chanina ben Antigona Saimer Kol Tinaikis v'chol. So I'm Rabbi Yehuda Mishmol Halacha Rabbi Chanina ben Antigonus. As we said, that's all totally if she's able to guard her kedushin. If she doesn't know how to guard her kedushin, then she doesn't even need to do miyun at all. Fine. Tana katana shlomiana. You have a katana that did not protest. The Amdav Nises, but she stands up and marries another guy, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Amru Nisueha Hein Meuneha. The fact that she accepts marriage from another guy, how could that be anything other than her protesting that she does not want to be with this other man? And therefore, then itself is a form of miyun. Iboilhu, niskachmahu. What if not the nisuin was done? However, let's say it was only kedushin. So is that also enough to constitute that it's considered to be like miyun? Or is it only when it comes to nisuin? So Tashma, Katana Shalom Yana, the Niskadsha. So what happens if she does Kedushin with someone else? So Mishim Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Amr Kedusha Hein Miyoneha. So even the Kedushin is the same din. Iboyhu. Pligi Rabbanan Aleha Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Lo. Do they actually argue with the statement or not? So Imtim Salomer Pligi the Kedushin or Afil ben Nisuin. Do they argue when it comes to Kedushin or even by Nisuin they argue? Imtim Salomer Pligi Afil ben Nisuin. Halacha Moisa and Halacha Moisa. So is halacha like him or not? The Imtim is Halacha Moisa and Nisuin or Afil Kedushin. So is halacha like him when it comes to that or that? So Tashma, Amr Rabbi Yehuda Mishmua, Halacha Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Halacha B'chad Pligi. Aviakati Tiboilach Dahavi Netziva Mikara Odima Mikacha. So we still have the first question that she was married to the first husband, or maybe that she had Kedushin. So the question is this low level mian effective even at Nisuin? So Tashma. The Kalase the Abdon Imrud, that this young girl, so she rebelled. So Shadu Rabbi Zugi the Rabbanan Lamiv the Kinhu. So they went into this situation to examine, to figure out exactly what happened. As Rashi says, Ihavi Mihadrin Mimhardayu. She went back from her rebelliousness. Armahu Nashe, women Chazu Gavraichu, see your husbands, the Ka'asu, that they're coming. So Amru Lahu, so she said, Nahavi Gavraichu Dirhu, let them be your husband. So Amarebi Enucha Miyun Gadamizeh. The fact that she made this statement, that certainly is a form of mian. So my love, the havi netziva. Well, we're talking about even with marriage. Lo, the havi mikadsha kedushi. The halach Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, I feel nesuin the kama. Even if she was married, doesn't make any difference. This is a situation where if she's not able to guard her kedushin, then it's still no mian is necessary. Rabbi Lezer Oimer, Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel, Chayzrani al Kol Tzedi Chachamim. I went around to understand all the dinim of the Chachamim. V'matzasi Adam, I never found a person shehishva midaisav, bekatana Rabbi Lezer, that was as exacting in his midais like Rabbi Lezer. She also Rabbi Elazar Kim Tayeles Imo B'chatzer. That Rabbi Lezer made like taking a stroll with him in a courtyard. That even if she's a bas kohen and she was standing in and she was toivel ve'echeles betruma la'erev, that doesn't make any difference. It's still not a marriage. Says Rashi that it says b'toivelos mimnei tashmish. Even if we see that she went to the mikvah to have relations, shimsha ve'echeles la'erev betruma, and she's eating truma now, still we say that's still not considered to be a marriage. Tanya Rebbe Lezer Oimer, Ein Masa Katana Klum. It doesn't make any difference. All these different actions don't mean anything if she's a katana. So the husband's not going to get any of her things, not her work of her hands, not if she finds something or knowing her vows. He will not inherit. And also, he will not be matamater, says Rashi. For example, if he's a kohen, says Rashi, even though its truth is it's some form of a kedushin, some marriage, we say that normally the din is that she's like a meis mitzvah. Nonetheless, it still says ve'en matamula. Okay, that's a huge chiddush, because she doesn't have a father, so maybe also she she doesn't have anyone to do the kfor if she dies. Klol shel davar enu ki ish tol chol davar. She's not your wife. El shesricha mian. there's this one concept that miyun is required. However, Rabbi Yeshua says the opposite view. Rabbi Yeshua Eimer, no, actually, like we said in Rashi, this is actually in this case, that we do say that he's matama because she's like a meis mitzvah. Okay. Klal shel davar, hari he could ishto chol davar. She's like your wife. El sheyayitz b'miyun. But there's an exception because she's a katana that she can walk out with miyun. Amar Rabbi Nirin dibur Belezer. I can understand the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer. Mid Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Eliezer hishma midaisav b'katana. Rabbi Yeshua chilek. So my chilek, what does he divide? Ishto he tiboy get. If it's his wife, he should give a get. Rabbi Eliezer nami ilav ishto he miyun nami loy tiboy. What do you mean? So if it's not his wife or anything, then why is miyun required? So why is one better than the other? El bechdi tepuk. With nothing, she cannot go out. In other words, you can't say, even though she's not really your wife, we're still going to require miyun, because you're not just going to say that she goes free for nothing, that, without doing any action. So at least miyun is required. So here we have this cryptic statement with two answers, which is going to be question 5. Kol kavashi min ish kil hi ishto hechadami akavashi min ish. So hechadami kavashi min ish. So about kavashi min ish. So Gemara says two answers. First of all, Omer Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shmuel tavua li nase. Let's say others. She basically says that others wanted to marry her, right? However, Omer, she said machmas ploini baili, that I can't marry you because I'm married to some other guy. So I'm already married. So zuhi kavashi min ish. So that's considered to be nakava min ish. Therefore, we see that she understands that she's married. However, machmas b'nei adam shenimahu ganim li zuhi akavashi min ish. If she says, I don't want to marry you because you're not my type, which is mashma that in her mind she doesn't even realize that she's married. It's not an akava. She's not holding herself back from a second guy because of her first relationship, because she doesn't even have this connection. Abayam bar Avin of Rav Chanina bar Avin der Matavayo, a second answer. Nasan la get. Let's say a get was given to her. Zuzuya kavashim and ish. That's considered to be like she was pushed off by this man, and therefore it's like she was like his wife, and therefore no longer can he marry her relatives or vice versa. She's considered to be a grusha, so she can no longer marry a kohen. However, miyano boy, if let's say all she did was miyun, zuhi akavashin ish. It was not from the man. It was not his action. It was her action. Therefore, so therefore, it was like they were not really married retroactively, and therefore she's allowed to marry his relatives and vice versa. All right, 1 second. That can't be a good answer because how did Tanya will come on? We already see this in the Mishnah. We're going to see in a second. The hamamenis biish who moter b'kavasavi who moteres b'karayvav will pass him in a kahuna. Nasan leget who asur b'kavasavi who asur b'karayvav b'sal in a kahuna. So how could that be the pshat in this Mishnah? It's going to be the Mishnah later on. Your man says perushim kimafarish. Like a lot of times, one is coming to explain the other, as we're about to do. Hamamenis biish. If a woman just does miyun, so that is like they were never married, and therefore who moter b'karavasavi moteres b'karayvav. So they're allowed to marry each other's relatives. Well, pasim in a kahuna, and she's not considered to be a grusha, so therefore she can still marry a kohen. Nasnal get, but if let's say the husband gave a get to asur b'karavasavi, he asur b'karayvav absul in a kahuna, that's considered like she's really divorced, like it was a real marriage, and therefore all these dinim apply. And then the Mishnah says as follows: Nasan get. Let's say he gave to her a get, says Rashi, v'afilu hi katana, and she's a little girl. Harihi kashar gerushais v'asur b'karayvav. She's considered to be just like a regular grusha. Continue with the Mishnah. Dachzira me'ayna boy, and then he remarried her, even though she's still a katana. But now she does miyun. The first time he divorced her. Now she's walking away from the marriage. And she marries a different man. When it's armonis garsha, let's say she got divorced, she's still allowed to go back to her original husband. This is not considered to be a case of maksagur shasai. That normally, that if you were married, got divorced, and then your ex-wife married someone in the middle, you can no longer marry her. But this is not considered to be maksagur shasai because she did miyun with you. So even though you did get with her first, but now you have miyun, and therefore the connection is the miyun, and therefore that in itself, even though again you got remarried to her, and then so you want to marry her a third time, you're allowed to. Mi'ayna boy the hechazir nasan will get. So it's the other way around, doesn't work. That if, let's say, first she did mian, so she walked out, and then for whatever reason they decide to get remarried as a katana, but he gives her a get, so now she's considered to be really married. It was a real marriage, and therefore for that there was a get, and therefore she marries another man and then gets divorced. That's considered maksa rishasa. She cannot go and marry this man again. Okay, as we continue to kuf. Ches Amud Beis. Zeklal, this is the general rule. Get Achar Miyun, if the get was given last, Asur Lachsaloi. She cannot go back to this original man. However, Miyun Achar Get, Muter Lachsaloi. Fine. And then the Mishnah concludes. Hamamenes Be'ish. Let's say a woman does Miyun with a man. The Nisesel Acher. And then she ends up marrying someone else, the Girsha. And then she got divorced from that man. Well, acher, and let's say then she marries a third guy. Umi aina does mian, umayna boy. Well, acher, a fourth guy, Vigirsha, and then gets divorced. Zeklal, kol sheyotze hamenu beget, so lachsaloi. Anyone who gave a get, she cannot remarry. But mian muteres lachsaloi. But it was the man where she did mian with, so she's allowed to go back to them. Alma, what do we see? Asi mian mavatal get. We see that mian can come and remove the get. In other words, if the first thing was done was the man gave a get, and then they got remarried, and then they did miyun, so that miyun removes the original get to the extent that if she gets remarried to someone else gets divorced, that's not maksa rishal, so she can marry the guy again, even though she already received the get from him. That's not considered to be an issue because miyun removed the get. Or minhi hamamenes beish. Let's say she did miyun, but nises acher, and she married someone else. The girshul acher, and she got divorced from another guy. Umi aynabo. Acher, and then she marries another guy, Vigirsha, Zeklal, Kol Shiyatsa Himena Beget, or Solachsoloi. Anyone that gave her get, she cannot remarry. But Miyun Muteras Lachsoloi. Alma, also Miyun Dechavre Ubatel Gita Dide. We see that Miyun will not remove. Miyun cannot come and be Mavatel this get. So we see that the women that had actually received a get, she's not allowed to go back to those guys. But why not? There was mian also done, so I thought mian would remove the get. So Omer Rav Yehuda Omer Shmuel Tara Misha Shanazu Lo Shanazu. So one answer is you're right that this Mishnah is literally broken. Therefore, there are two different shitas. You can't hold of both. Omer Rava Umay Kusha. What's the question? Dilma mian dide. When it comes to his own mian, where she was married, he gave a get, and then she remarried the same guy and did miyun, that will remove the get. Mavato get didei. Miyun dechavri will mavato get gita didei. However, the other cases, they're different men. So maybe when miyun is done after get, we say that miyun is mavato the first get in the situation where it's the same guy. So the question is, miyun dechavri the lo mavato gita didei. So why is it that if a different guy does miyun, so the first husband did already gave a get, let's say, and then you have miyun by another guy, so technically they were married. So the other guy could have given a get, but instead she decided to do miyun. Maybe the reason why was Aidi de Makeres Mirimuzaisav, that she recognizes his hints, Ukiritsaitsav, and his winks, Ozol Mishabe Shumaisila. Maybe she'll do this miyun to the second guy in order to be able to remarry her first husband. The first husband gave a get. She married someone else. So the first guy said, you know what? I shouldn't have done it. I'm sorry. Come back to me. How? It's Mafsik Rishasam. Just do miyun. So then if you just does miyun, then you would think that would work. And that's the reason why in that situation it doesn't work. So miyun didei nami Olavato Gita, we should say the same thing when it comes to if it's the same guy. In other words, first he gave a get, and then miyun. So we say, oh, do miyun, and now I can remarry you. So he says like this: Lo lavato gita today, the I did my keres b'remizaisav kritzaitsav also mishamash of. So she'll do the same thing to go back to her original husband. So Gemara says beautifully, hakvar shabsha. V'loi ishabsha. It's not something that's going to happen. In other words, she did mian already, so she's not going to listen to him. Mashin came by the acher, when she was with the second guy, since the first guy gave her a get, she still loves him. So maybe he'll wink and have her do mian, so the other one, so she could go back to her original husband. The fact that he gave her a get, maybe she didn't want to get divorced from the first guy. She had no choice. She got a get. She goes to the second guy, and all of a sudden, somehow she can maybe go back to her original husband, because that's realistic, because that's what she wants. But he couldn't even however, when we said he couldn't even hold on to her while they are married, if, let's say, she just did miyun. As she did mian, so she doesn't love him. Obviously, why would she love him? She doesn't love him. If she loved him, she would never have done mian. It was her actions, so she won't come back to her. She won't come back to him anyway. She's not going to come back to him anyway. But if he gave her a get, maybe she still loves him and might come back. So it's a very interesting svara that when he gives a get, maybe that's where the problem will take place if she goes to another guy. There's a chance that she may end up doing this trick. However, if we're talking that it was a get and then it was miyun to the same man and then she walks away, why did she do miyun to the first guy? The fact that she did miyun to the first guy obviously shows that she doesn't want to be with him, and therefore that's the reason why we say it's not a case of machzor or shasa, because then a person's not going to be concerned of the situation. El ikasha the chavre kasha. You can ask a question on two different, not the husband to the husband his friends, because they're two different situations. From one man to the husband, they're different svaros. Mi'ayna boy v'hechzira. Let's say she did miyan and goes back, nasan will get, and he gives her a get. Venisas la'achar, she marries another guy, and it's armo neskarsha, and let's say she gets divorced from that guy. She's not allowed to go back to her original husband. Taima this armo neskarsha. That's because divorce took place. Hami aina, let's say she didn't get divorced, but she did miyun with the second man. It's mashma muteras lasalo, that she could go back. So we see that actually it's true. Even when it comes to another man, she could do mian to remove the situation. Or minhi. I ask a question. Hamamenes beish. If, let's say, she did mian, v'nises la'acher, married a second guy, v'girsha, and got divorced, la'acher, miyayna boy, zeh klal, kol shiyatzim mimenu beget, asur lachsoloi, b'miyan muteras lachsoloi. Lo asi miyan dechavri mavato gita didei. So as we saw before in the Seifa, that the miyun does not remove the get, but it's mashma in the case above that the only time she can't go back to her husband is only if the second guy divorced her. Which is mashma that she did miyun with the second guy, she could go, because must be that the miyun of a different person is mavatal the first person's get. So Rabbi Lezer taver misha lo shanazu. Again, like we said before, this is a broken statement, and therefore it must be two different opinions or different thoughts. Ula oimer kegoyin shilsha begitin. Actually, there were three gave her a get. This is the seifa. The mischazia kigedoyla. That once she received three gittin, she already looks like a gedoyla. So mantana oimer behuda oimer rav. Maidachsev, the pasuk says, "Meimenu bekesev shasinu," that our water, namely our Torah, is paid comparable to silver. Eitzenu, our wood, pimchir yavo b'shas hasakana. What is this? Nisbak halacha. Zu shiyatzim arisha and beget umesheni b'miyun. This is referring to a pasuk. It's referring to a person that you left your first husband with a get, and the second one with miyun. So what does that mean? So look at Rashi. She left three times with a get. So now she looks like an adult. Sulo hadra. Now she can no longer go back. To any of them. Dulo also miyun the acher mavatal. That situation, miyun cannot be mavatal all these gittin. Of a kaidim shitishalesh also miyun the chavri mavatal gita. If it wasn't three, then it could work. Miyun could work. If she wants to go back to her, she can. B'shasas Rashi says shenigzer shul yask b'tayra. There was a time in which there was a gezerah, a person was not allowed to enter, but kesef shasinu al yedei schirus lamdenu. Fine. So mahu shetaxel rishon. What does it mean that to go back to the first? So Gemara says sachru adam echad ba'arba me'azuz, that you hired a person for $400. The sholas Rabbi Kiva ve'sasurin ba'asar, and they asked Rabbi Akiva, and he said it's asar. That's Rabbi Hud ben Meserim and it's even ba'asar. Rabbi Mishum Rabbi Yosi lazu lo hutzrachnu. That you do not need. Why? Because l'isser kares hitarta. When it comes to Eishes Ish, which is an isser kares hitarta, we said that she's allowed to be removed. With mian, l'isser lav l'kol shekain. So it is clear and certainly is mutter for her to come back to him when the second person did mian. In other words, if we're going to even mater Eishes Ish, which is an Isser Kares, so this whole din of Maxar Rishas was a lav. So certainly we're going to be lenient when it comes to mian. So Barim Kach Sholu, Hari Haisa Eishes Achi Imoi, Shehi Shnieloi. Let's say you have this case of your mother's brother's wife, which is a Sheni, Benasa Achiv Mi'aviv B'meis, and your brother from your father's side married her and he died. Mahu Shetimoyin. Hashta. What's the din about doing mian? V'takrinhu nesuin kamoi, to remove the first nesuin, v'tisyavin. Yesh mian achar misa b'makam mitzvah yolo. Is there a din of doing mian after the death in the makam, for a makam mitzvah, for the sake of being able to do a mitzvah? So on this, sachro sheni b'nei adam bi'arba me'azuz. They hired someone. The Sholas Rabbi Kiva ve'sasurin v'aser, and he said, no, you cannot do that. A person cannot do mian after death in order for a mitzvah to take place. As Rabbi Yehuda ben Meserim and Tzibin v'aser, Rabbi Yehuda bar Ashien u'moide Rav. However, Rav will agree, says Rashi. Even if it's true that you cannot do mian to remove the get from another man, nihidu didei lo hadra. Achiv nisbatel. Deloy to have gerushas achiv. That it can be mavatel the get, so you're not considered to be gerushas achiv. Says the Gemara, shemuteres achiv shel zeh, that she's allowed to be with the brother of this man. Shenesra Allah, no pshita. Who nihu de makeres b'rim mizoysa v'kuritzaitzav of achiv loy. That certainly we say that only she knows her husband, his winks and motions, but not the brother. Ligs are high, atu high, kamash malon. You would think maybe you should make a gezerah. So again, we see this machlokas. Since at one point she was considered gerushas achiv, so maybe now, even though they got remarried, died, maybe no yibum, since the yibum goes back to the original marriage. Okay, we're going to stop here and we'll understand this a little bit better when we see these questions. Question 6. Hamigarish isha. So a person divorces his wife, dechzira, and remarries her, muteris liyavim. So the din is he's allowed to do yibum. So my time, we didn't do this actually. We did some of it actually. So my time, okay, no, we did not do this. Okay. Okay, we did not do that yet. Okay. Let's look at TA 1. Katanish is Garsha. You have a katana that got divorced. Venises la'acher, and then she married another person. Umiyaina, and then she did mian to the second guy. So ha'im muteres l'vaxel rishon, is she allowed to go back to the original man? O la'achen shel rishon umadua. So again, the situation is where she got divorced already, and then afterwards she married someone else, and then mian with that other person. So the question is, can she now go back to the original? So Rishon Asura Mishum de ID Makaris Muzaisav Azul Mishabishla. So he said that no, when it comes to her husband, since she knows all of the hints, she loves him very much. He divorced her, so she really wants to go back to him. And therefore she's going to maybe do miyun on purpose because he's hinting, yeah, do miyun, then I can remarry you. The question is she allowed to go achin shel rishon? Is she allowed to go back to the brother of the original? So the answer is it's actually a machlokas. The trei lishni b'gemara igazrin otuhu she umru the batal gita olo. Do we say that the fact that there was miyun is it mavatal the get? So it is mavatal the get when it comes to the husband, but for her to go back to his brother, so that doesn't know his hints and all these different things. She doesn't know that guy. She was never married to him. So maybe in that situation, it is allowed. We're not concerned that this is the trick that's being done. So again, on that is a machlokas. Possibly TB2. Let's see the question. Yevamot b'chayav. So you have of Yevamot in the lifetime of the father. Shasiya avi b'katnusa v'nis garsha. Shehachzira bala. Umeis madin liyibim kishmeis b'katnusa. So this we will see on tomorrow's daf. Adkan.